Hi, and welcome to the summary and analysis of Romeo and Juliet, Act 2, Prologue, Scene 1, and Scene 2. Just a reminder, this is not a spoiler-free video. Fair warning. But if you're good to go, then jump the wall and swear by the moon as we dive into Act 2. So the Act 2 prologue is dumb and you should skip it. It doesn't really add much, and some critics believe it wasn't even written by Shakespeare, that it was added later by somebody else. So now the whole play is written by Shakespeare and some guy named Larry. It basically takes 14 lines to say that the love for Rosaline is dead and that Juliet is the hot new girl. It also says their family dynamics are a disaster and it's gonna make it really tough for them to see each other. There, I did it in like 4 lines. I'm so good at this. Homeschool high five. And that's the prologue. In Act 2, Scene 1, we follow Romeo out of the Capulet front door and back into the night. His head is spinning over Juliet. He wants to go back, and he quickly gives his boys the slip by jumping over an orchard wall. Benvolio and Mercutio call out to Romeo, attempting to conjure him back by invoking Rosaline, which is so 45 seconds ago. Keeping with my theme of pointing out all the dirty jokes, Mercutio says, "I conjure thee by Rosaline's bright eyes, by her high forehead and scarlet lip, by her fine foot, straight leg, and quivering thigh, and the domain that there adjacent lie." So I conjure you by all this stuff, her thighs and, the stuff around there. When Benvolio says, "Careful, you're going to anger him," Mercutio volleys back, "My invocation is fair and honest, and in his mistress's name, I conjure only but to raise him up." If you're like, is that an erection joke? It sure is. A bit more back and forth wraps up Scene 1, with Benvolio and Mercutio giving up their search and going to bed. And that's Scene 1. Scene 2 is famous. It's Shakespeare at his absolute best. Now we're back with Romeo, who has just broken into the Capulet orchard. And he can hear Mercutio's taunts and responds to himself saying, he, meaning Mercutio, jests at scars that never felt a wound. Which, tap the brakes there, Casanova. You moped about Rosaline the Perma Virgin, and then you kissed Juliet while she just literally stood there. My wound. Suddenly, he sees a light through Juliet's bedroom window. By the way, soft in Shakespeare means wait or go slow. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Juliet comes to the window and stares out. Then she starts talking to herself, saying rather famously, "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" So everyone misunderstands this. Wherefore does not mean where, it means why. She is saying, why are you a Montague? She continues, "'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague." What's a Montague? It's not a hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So then she offers a deal to the knight. "Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name, which is no part of thee, take all myself." Romeo, still creeping in the bushes, can't help himself. He calls out, which was probably pretty surprising. "I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth, I never will be Romeo. My ears have not yet drunk 100 words of that tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo and a Montague?" He responds, "Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike." Juliet, showing good instincts, declares that Romeo will definitely be killed if her family finds him here. Then Juliet asks, "By whose direction foundest thou out this place?" Which I always thought was funny. This is literally the backyard of the house that he was just in. I don't think a compass was involved. Juliet returns to the matter of true love. She names that Romeo has heard her speak aloud about her love. She offers to play coy and hard to get for etiquette's sake, but she doesn't want to. She loves him and she swears to be true. Romeo goes to swear back, but he doesn't get very far. "Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow, that tips with silver all these fruited treetops," she interrupts. "Oh, swear not by the moon, thy inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable." "What should I swear by?" "Do not swear at all, or if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee." Romeo goes to swear again, and again Juliet cuts him off, saying, "Well, do not swear. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy in this contract tonight." Here, when Juliet says contract, she is not being hyperbolic. Marriage in 1600s England didn't require a big formal process to be considered hitched. No registering with a local authority or church. You know what it took? It took 2 people swearing that they love each other and you were married. Now, if you want your marriage to have legal weight, it required a single witness, but that was it. So Romeo is literally proposing that they get married right now, here in this garden. It's no wonder Juliet taps the brakes. So they go back and forth for a while. You get a sense that nobody wants to end this conversation. It's a lot of like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. It's about, you didn't hang up. So the nurse calls Juliet in, and when she emerges, she has a plan. 3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee. When and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee my lord throughout the world. After 12 more no, you hang-ups and almost goodbyes, Juliet says, good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night till it be morrow. And that is scene 2. So if we really want to understand Shakespeare, we gotta get a little deeper than just plot. Let's do a little analysis. When Romeo breaks into the garden, I wonder what his plan is. Having been a teenage boy, I can tell you that that is not a prerequisite for these types of decisions, but still, what is he expecting? Because it is so reckless. He says something interesting when he's talking to himself. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. So the stuff with the moon. Romeo is imagining Juliet as an acolyte of Diana, the goddess of virgins, whose symbol is the moon. But here Diana is envious of Juliet's beauty. He says Diana's vestal livery is sick and green. That line is interesting. Vestal means virgin and livery is clothes. So why would he point out that the goddess of virginity wears pale green? That's kind of specific, isn't it? Well, Shakespeare is referencing a medical condition common to the time that we would call hypochromic anemia. Hypo being under and chromic meaning color. It leaves the afflicted, most of them teenage women, looking pale and greenish because they lacked enough red blood cells to give their skin a normal hue. It was called the green sickness in Shakespeare's day, and cutting-edge science, led by German physician Johannes Lang, referred to it as the disease of the virgins. Creepy German doctor held that the cure logically was sex. However, today we would prescribe iron supplements. So that's crazy. But we shouldn't be too hard on Dr. Creep here, because you can see how he got there. The anemia was showing up in young women because it was caused by, among other things, menstruation, by consistent blood loss. The iron they are losing would have been replaced primarily by meat, but meat and other sources of iron tended to be expensive. However, if the young women became pregnant, menstruation would stop and their color would return over time. And since women were likely to have multiple babies in a row, the cure, it turns out, was getting laid, which Romeo, hiding in the garden, would like Juliet to consider. For science. Finally, I've been rather hard on Romeo throughout this play, deriding him as a self-obsessed, melodramatic killjoy who needs to get over himself. But here, I'll admit, he does begin to show some hints of maturity. Early in the play, he spoke in rhymed iambic pentameter. Dun 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 dun. His expressions of emotion were colloquial, unoriginal, and uninspired, and he chose to be weighed down by this hopeless love for the perma-virgin. In contrast, Juliet, though younger, is far more mature. And this is a dynamic that will keep up throughout the play. She stops Romeo from swearing by the moon, which is a lifeless convention, and she herself refuses to go through the social motions of being standoffish or coy at the start of a relationship, which was something that was expected of a rich girl in a courtship. Simply put, Juliet shows Romeo the way to authenticity. She makes him more mature. He abandons the rhymed iambic pentameter and follows Juliet into blank verse, where he doesn't deftly conform to rules, but instead speaks from the heart. So Juliet is bringing him along, but she will remain the more mature party throughout the entire play. It's Juliet who suggests marriage outright. It's Juliet who handles the logistics of the messenger. Juliet shows self-possession, initiative, and confidence. It would be laudable if it didn't ultimately get her killed. Her promise to follow thee, my lord, throughout the world hurts a little bit, because she means it. She will follow him anywhere, even into a tomb. And that's Act 2, Prologue through Scene 2. Thank you for watching. Next time, we'll head to Act 2, Scenes 3 and 4. We'll see you next time on One Day Ahead.